Desmond's Flicks is made possible by the incredible support from the Patreon community. If you'd like to help support the channel and keep it going, consider becoming a Patreon today. Link is in the description below. Plus, you'll gain access to awesome perks. Now let's get into the video. Texas Chainsaw 3D was released in 2013 and was directed by John Lussenhop. The film is a direct sequel to the 1974 film and was originally intended to be the final chapter of the franchise. The film stars Alexandra Daddario, Dan Yeager, and Trey Songz. The film grossed $47.2 million on a budget of $20 million. It was also the last film both Marilyn Burns and Gunnar Hansen starred in before they passed in 2014 and 2015 respectively. Bill Moseley makes a brief appearance as Drayton Sawyer in place of Jim Sedow. Even John Dugan reprised his role as Grandpa from the 1974 film. Before we go any further, I will be going into full plot spoilers, so if you'd like to avoid these spoilers, skip ahead to the timestamp on screen. Following the events of the 1974 film, Sheriff Hooper drives to the Sawyer house demanding Leatherface's surrender. Initially, the Sawyers refuse, but eventually comply. Bert Hartman, mayor of Newt, Texas, arrives with a group of townsmen to burn down the farmhouse. The entire Sawyer family is presumed dead in the ensuing fire and shootout. However, an infant with a mark on her chest is found by Gavin Miller. He murders Loretta Sawyer, the infant's injured mother. Then he and wife Arlene take the infant and raise her as their own. 40 years later, a 20-something Heather Miller, because apparently time doesn't exist in this world, receives a letter that her grandmother, Verna Carson, has died. When she speaks to her parents about it, they tell her she was adopted from an awful family in Newt, Texas. Heather, along with her boyfriend Ryan, her best friend Nikki, and Nikki's boyfriend Kenny, drive to her grandmother's house. Along the way, they pick up a hitchhiker named Daryl. When they arrive at the home, Heather is handed a letter from Verna's lawyer, Mr. Farnsworth, who implores her to read the letter immediately. But of course, she doesn't read it and the group decides to stay the night. The group leaves to buy food, leaving Daryl in charge of the house. As soon as they leave though, Daryl starts stealing shit. He finds a metal door in the wine cellar but is unable to open it. Just as he attempts to enter, he's killed by Leatherface. While shopping, it's revealed that Nikki and Ryan have been knocking boots. Meanwhile, Heather meets Deputy Carl and Mayor Bert Hartman outside the store. When the group returns home from grocery shopping, they find the house ransacked. The group then split off and Kenny starts making dinner. He finds a secret door that leads downstairs to the cellar. Investigating the cellar, he encounters Leatherface. As Kenny attempts to escape up the stairs, he's attacked with a hook and dragged back down to the cellar. Meanwhile, Nikki fools Ryan into going into the barn where she seduces him. Back at the house, Heather continues exploring, finding the decomposing body of her grandmother. Heather frantically looks for her friends, but instead finds Leatherface in the kitchen making a finger food snack. She's knocked out and wakes up in the cellar. Heather manages to escape while Leatherface is distracted, cutting Kenny in half with a chainsaw, killing him. Heather yeets herself down some concrete stairs, then trips into a graveyard, where she then hides in a coffin. It's not long until Leatherface saws through the coffin, drawing the attention of Nikki and Ryan. Leatherface then sets his sights on the pair, giving Nikki enough time to squeak out a goofy line.
Welcome to Texas, motherfucker!
Heather rams the van into the farmhouse, picking up Nikki and Ryan. The trio attempt to force the gate open with the van, but to no avail. Once the gate finally does open, Leatherface cuts through one of the tires with his chainsaw, causing the van to crash. Ryan is killed on impact, but both Heather and Nikki survive. Leatherface wounds Nikki while Heather escapes from the van and runs to a nearby carnival. Leatherface chases Heather around the carnival grounds, then encounters Deputy Carl and throws his chainsaw at him long enough to skip into the woods. Heather is taken to the police department where she tells both Deputy Carl and Sheriff Hooper that she's a Sawyer. While left alone, Heather digs through files on the Sawyer family. She learns about the family's infamous history and how they died. Meanwhile, Sheriff Hooper and Mayor Hartman send an officer to investigate the Carson house. The officer reports his findings over the phone to both Hooper and Hartman. The officer finds Nikki in a freezer, then shoots her in the head like a dumbass.
It's okay, it's okay.
He attempts to leave, but is killed by Leatherface with a hatchet. Angered by the officer's findings, Hartman vows to end all the remaining Sawyers. Heather flees the station and meets with the lawyer at a bar. Farnsworth asks Heather if she's read the letter.
Absolutely not. Not me. Certainly not I.
He then tells her Leatherface is her cousin. It's not long before Hartman arrives at the bar. Heather escapes and runs into Deputy Carl, then gets into his patrol car. Once they've driven away, Carl reveals he's Hartman's son and takes Heather to the Sawyer slaughterhouse, where he ties Heather up and gags her. Leatherface listens over the dead officer's radio and learns of Heather's location. When he arrives at the slaughterhouse to kill Heather, he sees the Sawyer's sigil on Heather's chest and releases her. It's not long before Leatherface is attacked by Hartman and Ollie. Heather escapes, but has a change of heart. She returns and kills Ollie with a pitchfork, then tosses Leatherface his chainsaw and says the most amazing line ever.
Do your thing, cuz.
Leatherface and Hartman begin a battle to the death. While Sheriff Hooper arrives at the slaughterhouse, Heather begs Hooper not to shoot as Leatherface forces Hartman to his death into a meat grinder. Sheriff Hooper lets both Heather and Leatherface go, who then return to the Carson estate. Heather finally reads the letter, which informs her that her real name is Edith Rose Sawyer. The letter also states that Leatherface lives in the basement and will protect her for the rest of his life. The letter also requests that she take care of him in return. Leatherface then buries Verna's body in the family graveyard. Heather accepts Leatherface as her family despite him murdering her best friend and boyfriend. In a post-credits scene, we see Heather's adopted parents visit the Carson estate. While waiting at the front door, Leatherface comes through, chainsaw in hand. Texas Chainsaw 3D is a complete and utter mess of a film, but damn do I have a lot of fun watching it. Even though I'm entertained, I can't ignore the massive plot holes, convoluted timeline, and dumb as shit characters. Despite those issues, I can't help but watch this film with complete glee. There's some great kills, Dan Yeager is a damn good Leatherface, and the film moves along quickly. It's one of those films where you can shut your brain off and enjoy all the carnage candy. With all that said, I'm going to give Texas Chainsaw 3D a weekend rental. This is not a good film by any stretch. Despite that, I've watched this film multiple times and always have a fun time with it. Big thank you to Patreon supporter Scott for requesting this franchise review of The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you'd like to request a horror franchise for me to review, become a Patreon today. Link is in the description below.